The stars above Eden 9 were calm that night. The colony had always been a quiet place. No wars, no fear, only peace. Humans had lived there for more than 20 years. They built farms, cities, and families under the twin suns. Children played in the red grass while ships passed slowly across the sky. To everyone living there, it was just another peaceful evening. But space has a strange way of turning peace into silence. At the edge of the system, long-range sensors started picking up strange readings. A young technician named Mara sat inside the control room of Eden 9 station. She watched the screens flash with strange symbols. "That can't be right," she whispered. The readings showed hundreds of unknown energy signatures moving fast, too fast for normal ships. She called her commander, Captain Ivers. He looked at the data and frowned. "Could be a glitch," he said, but his voice carried doubt. He had served in the old Earth defense before it was shut down. He knew what war signals looked like, and this felt like war. For hours they tried to contact the approaching objects. No answer. Then suddenly all communications turned to static. Every satellite went dark. The skies above Eden 9 began to glow faintly red. People walked outside their homes looking up in confusion. Something enormous was entering orbit. From the surface it looked like a storm of light. But as the lights grew closer, shapes began to appear. Massive ships, alien and silent. Their hulls were black as night, and strange symbols glowed on their sides. The colony's defense systems activated, but everyone knew it would not be enough. Eden 9 was a farming world, not a fortress. Mara's hand shook as she sent one last message to Earth. "They're here. It's not a drill." Her voice cracked, but she finished it. Then the signal died. The aliens had jammed every frequency. In the sky, the first energy beam hit the ground. The explosion turned the horizon white. Buildings fell like sand. People ran, screaming, trying to reach the shelters, but the second strike hit before they could. Fire rolled through the city. The air turned red and heavy with dust. Captain Ivers tried to fight back. He launched the few orbital defense drones they had, but they were destroyed in seconds. The alien fleet moved with cold precision. It was not a battle. It was an extermination. From orbit, the alien commander of the Xylar Dominion watched in silence. His ship was larger than any human city. He looked down at the burning colony and smiled. "Weak creatures," he said to his second officer. "They spread too far. It's time to remind them who rules the stars." His voice was calm, as if he were speaking about insects. By midnight, Eden 9 was gone. The forests burned. The oceans boiled. Every city turned to dust. Only smoke and silence remained. But in that silence, a single small probe escaped the wreckage. It was automatic, designed to send emergency reports back to Earth through a deep space quantum relay. The aliens didn't notice it. They thought no one was left alive to send anything. 3 days later on Earth, a signal blinked inside the old defense network. It was weak, full of static, but readable. The system had been sleeping for years. No one had touched it since humanity joined the Galactic Council. But the message reached the one person who still checked the network, Admiral Reyes. Reyes sat alone in his office under the Atlantic Command Center. He was an old man now, gray hair, steady hands. He opened the message and listened. Through the static, Mara's voice echoed, "They're here. It's not a drill." Then silence. For a long time he didn't move. He looked at the world map glowing softly on his wall. Millions of humans lived on different colonies now, peaceful, unarmed, trusting that the galaxy would protect them. He knew better. He opened a hidden console beneath his desk and entered an old command code. The screen asked one question, "Activate Project Phoenix?" Reyes stared at it, remembering the secret built decades ago. Humanity had always feared something like this might happen. So while the galaxy laughed at their weakness, humans had been building something unimaginable beneath the oceans, inside the moon, and in the dark side of Mars. It was called Project Phoenix, a fleet born from fear, built in silence, meant only for one purpose, survival. Reyes pressed yes. Across the planet, massive ocean platforms began to rise. Hidden doors opened under the waves, releasing blue light that reached the surface. From the deep, enormous shapes began to move. Water exploded upward as the first warship broke free. It was black, metallic, and larger than any known vessel. Its engines glowed like small suns. All around the world, the same thing happened, one after another. The hidden ships awakened. In orbit, satellites picked up the sudden surge of power. The Galactic Council saw it too, but no one understood what was happening. Are the humans mobilizing? Someone asked in shock, but Earth sent no explanation. In the Atlantic Command, Admiral Reyes stood before the global broadcast system. His voice, calm and steady, echoed through every base and station. "This is not a drill," he said. "Eden 9 is gone." They thought humanity was weak. They were wrong. The room filled with silence. Then a deep mechanical hum began to spread as the engines of 500,000 ships powered up. Blue light illuminated the clouds above Earth. Every person on the planet looked up that night, seeing the skies filled with rising metal giants. Children pointed. Parents whispered prayers. Some cried, others smiled. The message was clear. Humanity had been patient, peaceful, and kind, but never helpless. As dawn rose, the fleet gathered above the planet. Ships as large as cities formed into formation, ready for their first mission. In the command ship, Admiral Reyes looked at the stars and spoke quietly. For Eden 9, the order was given. The engines roared. The stars shifted, and humanity's armada began to move. In the darkness of space, the aliens still celebrated their victory, unaware that something vast and unstoppable was coming for them. The silence after the massacre was over. Humanity had arrived. The great silence of space was broken by the soundless rise of metal giants. Across Earth's oceans, massive platforms split open, releasing waves that reached the skies. Beneath them, the long-sleeping ships of Project Phoenix came alive. They had been hidden for more than 50 years, waiting for a signal that everyone hoped would never come. Now that signal had arrived. In the cold depths of the Pacific, the first dreadnought emerged. Its hull shimmered with wet steel and blue energy veins that ran along its surface like living light. As it broke through the water, a massive shockwave rolled across the sea. Seagulls scattered into the stormy air as the name glowed faintly across its side. HSS Vengeance. Inside its command deck, officers who had trained their entire lives for this moment finally took their stations. They spoke little, their faces calm but their eyes burning. Around the world, more ships rose. From the Atlantic, from the Arctic ice, from hidden bases inside the moon. In total, over 500,000 vessels awakened in perfect silence. In orbit, thousands of smaller craft began to align with the larger ones, forming patterns like constellations of war. The sight was breathtaking and terrifying. People on Earth watched from rooftops, mountains, and space elevators. Some whispered in disbelief. Others recorded the sight as proof that humanity was far from defenseless. Deep inside the Atlantic Command Center, Admiral Reyes stood surrounded by holographic displays. His expression was hard, his hands clasped behind his back. The fleet's activation data filled the air around him. Ship names, launch codes, coordinates, all coming to life at once. "Everything's ready, sir," said Commander Alana Briggs, his second in command. Reyes nodded slowly. "Then let's remind them who we are." The words carried weight, not just in the room but across every ship as his message went live through the fleet's secure channel. His voice echoed in every command center, every corridor, every cockpit. They destroyed Eden 9. They thought we would mourn and hide. They thought humanity was weak. But they forgot one thing. Humans never stop fighting. For every colony they burn, we will rise stronger. For every life they take, we will take back 1,000 stars. The fleet responded in silence, but the energy that filled every human heart was louder than any roar. Across thousands of ships, captains raised their hands and saluted the image of Earth glowing below. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. Alien networks, traders, and outposts began sharing images captured by hidden satellites. The data was almost unbelievable. One message appeared in every language. Humanity has mobilized. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. The Grand Chamber was filled with alien leaders from hundreds of worlds. Their screens flickered with footage of human battleships rising from the oceans. A tall insectoid ambassador from the Luthari Alliance clicked his mandibles nervously. They cannot possibly have built so many," he said. An old reptilian senator hissed. "They have been lying to us for decades." No one spoke for a long time. The humans had always been quiet, friendly, easy to underestimate. But now their silence felt dangerous. Back on Earth, fleets continued to assemble in orbit. Thousands of smaller strike groups joined the main battle armadas. The moon's secret bases sent carrier groups into position. Even Mars, once considered too far to matter, became a supply hub for the Armada. In one of the largest hangars, a young pilot named Darius stood beside his fighter. The machine gleamed with dark silver armor and human symbols etched across its wings. He looked through the viewport at the massive dreadnoughts forming above. "We were told war was over," he said quietly. The mechanic beside him shrugged. "Maybe peace was just our way of preparing." Darius smiled faintly, climbed into his cockpit, and the canopy sealed around him. The hum of the engine filled the air, mixing with thousands of others. The fleet was alive and ready. In the command ship HSS Sovereign, Admiral Reyes looked at the display showing the fleet's formation. He spoke to the central AI. "Status report. All ships are online. Fleet strength 503,214 vessels operational. Warp drives charged. Awaiting target confirmation." "Set destination. Eden 9 system," Reyes said firmly. "Confirmed," replied the AI. "Estimated travel time, 4 hours at full warp." Outside, the void shimmered as the ships prepared for jump. Blue lights flickered across their hulls, engines pulsing like giant hearts. Then Reyes gave the final order. "Execute Operation Dawnfire." The fleet moved as one. Thousands of light trails stretched across the darkness, merging into a river of glowing energy. In moments, Earth's orbit was empty. Humanity's greatest fleet had vanished into the stars. But even as they left, not everyone was celebrating. Many humans felt the weight of what was coming. News feeds filled with messages of fear and hope. Families gathered to watch the skies. A child asked her mother, "Will they come back?" The woman smiled softly. "They'll come back when it's over, sweetheart." Hours later, far from Earth, the fleet emerged from warp space near the edge of the Eden 9 system. The ruins of the colony floated like dust among the stars. The wreckage of human ships drifted silently. No life signals, no communication. Only death and cold metal. The officers watched the destruction in silence. Then, without words, the fleet began scanning for the enemy. The data came quickly. Multiple alien outposts still operating near the planet. Xylar patrol ships guarding the debris, unaware of what was heading their way. Admiral Reyes stared at the holographic map. His face hardened. "They're still here," he said quietly. "Good." He turned to his officers. "Deploy stealth wings. I want scouts in position before we make our move. No one fires until I give the word." The fleet spread like a shadow across the system, thousands of ships moving in perfect formation. Far ahead, the alien patrols continued their routine, confident that humans were no longer a threat. They had no idea that the largest armada in galactic history had arrived just beyond their sensors. Inside the dark command deck of the HSS Sovereign, Admiral Reyes whispered to himself, "This is for Eden 9. The stars flickered outside the window, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The silence before vengeance had begun. The stars of the Eden 9 system were cold and silent as humanity's armada emerged from warp space. A ripple of blue light spread across the darkness, and then the blackness filled with steel and fire. 500,000 warships appeared in formation. Dreadnoughts, cruisers, destroyers, and fighter carriers, all moving like one living creature. The glow of their engines painted the empty void with color. From the flagship HSS Sovereign, Admiral Reyes watched the fleet's arrival through the observation deck. His reflection shimmered against the glass, and behind him, the bridge crew moved with calm precision. "Status report," he said. "All ships accounted for, sir," replied Commander Briggs. "Stealth squadrons have confirmed Xylar presence across the system. Estimated 12 war fleets, nearly 30,000 ships." Reyes nodded slowly. "They still think they're the hunters." He turned toward the giant map floating in front of him. Blue dots filled the edges, forming the shape of humanity's fleet. Red dots represented the enemy. There were many, but not enough. "Prepare formation Omega," he said. Far away, in the shadow of a broken moon, human stealth ships glided silently past debris. Their black armor blended with space. Pilots held their breath as they scanned the enemy fleets. In the distance, alien ships glowed like red stars, massive vessels with long tendrils of energy pulsing through their cores. They didn't move. They didn't know what was coming. "Admiral," said Briggs, "scout data incoming." Visual feed on screen. The image appeared before them. Eden 9 floated below, a burned world, its cities turned to ash. The Xylar Dominion fleet hovered above it like vultures. They had built temporary stations, mining human ruins for technology. Reyes clenched his fists. They desecrate our dead, he whispered. For a moment the bridge fell silent. Then Reyes spoke. Signal all ships. Full fleet ready. The operation begins in 30 minutes. On a smaller cruiser, Lieutenant Mara Kellen sat in her chair, heart pounding. She had lost her brother on Eden 9. Now she was part of the Revenge. Around her, the crew prepared their weapons. First time in real combat? Asked her captain. Mara nodded. Yes, sir. Don't think about what they did. Just do your job. We'll make sure they never forget what humanity is capable of. She smiled faintly. Yes, sir. Back on the Sovereign, the AI voice filled the air. Fleet synchronization complete. Estimated firepower, 500 times that of the Xylar Dominion's total frontier defenses. Reyes looked at the glowing numbers. The scale was almost unreal. They wanted war, he said quietly. Now they'll see what war looks like. Across the fleet, engines hummed to life. Massive carriers opened their bays, releasing clouds of fighters. The stars filled with thousands of blue trails as humanity's air wings spread across the system. Drones deployed in waves, forming invisible lines of data and defense. The aliens, still unaware, continued their mining operations. Then one of the alien commanders finally noticed something strange. A communication officer aboard a Xylar flagship shouted in panic. Unidentified energy spikes detected. Origin unknown. The commander hissed. Probably human distress beacons. Ignore them. The officer hesitated. Sir, the readings are too large. They're coming from everywhere. Before the commander could respond, his entire display lit up with blue. Every direction now showed movement. The void itself seemed to awaken. From Earth's fleet, Admiral Reyes raised his hand. Fleet command to all units, he said. This is it. For Eden 9, for every life they took, he lowered his hand. Execute. The command shot through every channel. In perfect harmony, 500,000 ships moved forward. The first wave of fighters raced ahead, their engines cutting lines of light through the dark. Seconds later, the heavy cruisers followed, weapons glowing to life. The Xylar fleet turned in confusion. Their sensors couldn't even process the scale of what was approaching. Then they saw it. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of ships emerging from the blackness. The commander froze. Impossible. That can't be humans, but it was. The human fleet unleashed its first strike. Beams of energy and kinetic warheads rained across the system. Xylar ships exploded before they could even power up their shields. The shockwave rolled through space, lighting the ruins of Eden 9 in ghostly blue light. The Xylar tried to regroup, screaming orders in panic. But for every ship they sent forward, 10 human dreadnoughts answered. Inside one alien cruiser, the commander shouted, "Retreat! Retreat!" But the humans didn't give them the chance. The second wave arrived, massive cannons that fired magnetized projectiles the size of buildings. The alien fleet shattered like glass under pressure. In the middle of the chaos, Admiral Reyes stood still. "Maintain formation," he said. "No mercy until the system is ours." Far above Eden 9, Lieutenant Mara's ship flew through the wreckage of alien vessels. Her sensors screamed with readings. "Sir, they're falling apart. Their command ships are breaking formation." "Stay sharp," her captain replied. "They'll fight harder when they're desperate." But there was no real fight left. Humanity's fleet was too big, too disciplined. The battle that the Xylar Dominion thought would last hours ended in less than 20 minutes. When the last alien cruiser tried to escape, a single human destroyer cut it off. The alien commander tried to send a surrender signal, but the humans didn't answer. Reyes's voice echoed across the comms. No negotiations. No survivors. End this. Moments later, the final explosion lit up the sky. Eden 9 was free again, but empty. As silence fell, the wreckage of thousands of ships drifted across orbit. The stars were filled with fire and metal. Humanity had won the first battle, but everyone on the Sovereign knew it was only the beginning. Commander Briggs turned to Admiral Reyes. "Sir, the system is secure." Reyes nodded, his eyes cold. "Then send a message. Broadcast it on every channel the Xylar use." He turned toward the camera, his voice steady. "This is Admiral Reyes of Earth Command. To the Xylar Dominion. You thought we were weak. You were wrong. You brought war to our door. Now we're bringing it to yours." He paused for a long moment before giving the final line. "Humanity does not forgive. Humanity remembers." The message ended, but its echo traveled across the stars. Far away in Xylar space, the leaders of the Dominion received the transmission. Their faces turned pale as they watched the footage of their destroyed fleet. For the first time in their history, they felt something they had never felt before: fear, and deep in the void, as humanity's armada prepared for the next battle, one truth became clear: the storm had only begun to gather. The broadcast spread like wildfire. From one end of the galaxy to the other, Admiral Reyes's message echoed across military channels, trade routes, and pirate frequencies. The entire galactic web went silent for a moment, as if even the stars themselves paused to listen. Humanity does not forgive. Humanity remembers. On the central worlds of the Xylar Dominion, panic rippled through the highest chambers of power. The supreme warlord Zathreen stood in his war hall, surrounded by ministers and generals. The enormous hologram in the center displayed the Eden 9 system, now marked red with loss. Around it, tens of thousands of red lights blinked, the destroyed fleets. The hum of the war hall was heavy, tense, almost suffocating. Zathreen's scaled hands trembled slightly as he gripped the edge of the table. 500,000 human warships, he said, voice low and sharp. Impossible. Their species barely survived our first purge. One of his admirals, his crest quivering, replied, "It appears they have evolved faster than any known race, my lord. Their technology is no longer primitive. Their unity, unprecedented unity," Zathreen spat, turning sharply. "The last time we faced them, they were divided, crawling over each other for power. Who united them?" Another general lowered his head. "Admiral Reyes, my lord. They call him the Iron Star among their fleets. The man who built the Human Defense Accord." The hall fell silent. Then the Supreme Warlord hissed, "Then we will burn his star from the sky." But deep down, even Zathreen knew this wasn't going to be another simple extermination. Humanity had changed. The prey had become something far more dangerous. Across the galaxy, news spread faster than light. On distant mining colonies on the edge of neutral space, alien traders whispered in disbelief. The humans destroyed an entire Dominion fleet? No one survives fighting the Xylar. Maybe it's propaganda, but the images told the truth: burning wreckage, shattered command ships, the corpses of Xylar vessels drifting like metal ghosts across Eden 9. Among the neutral syndicates, several pirate lords watched the footage in silence. One leaned back in his chair, his cybernetic eye gleaming. "They've got fire, these humans." "Maybe too much," another smirked. "Fire brings profit. War means chaos, and chaos feeds us all." But one of them, an old smuggler who had seen too much, simply muttered, "You fools don't understand. They're not fighting for profit. They're fighting for revenge. And revenge is the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy." Back on the Sovereign, the silence after victory felt almost heavier than the battle itself. The fleet drifted in formation, engines dimmed, weapons cooling. Eden 9 hung below, a graveyard planet still wrapped in ash and shadow. In his private quarters, Admiral Reyes stood alone, watching the planet through the viewport. His face was unreadable. The reflection of the dead world flickered across his eyes. A soft chime broke the silence. Commander Briggs entered quietly. "Sir, communications from the Council." "They want an update." Reyes didn't turn. "Tell them the system is secured. Tell them we lost 43 ships and I want every fallen name carved into the memorial on Luna." Briggs hesitated. "Yes, sir, and the Council also wants to discuss the next move. They're cautious. Some fear retaliation." Reyes's lips curled into a faint smile. "Fear is good. It means they finally understand what's at stake." He turned at last, his voice calm but cold. "We strike before the Dominion rebuilds. While their pride blinds them, we take their border worlds. But, sir—" "No hesitation." Reyes cut him off. "Every moment we wait, they gather strength. They won't stop until Earth burns. So we strike first." Briggs nodded, though unease clouded his eyes. "Understood, Admiral." Far across the fleet, Lieutenant Mara Kellen sat with her crew in the mess hall. The victory had been brutal but glorious. Holographic news played in the background. Clips of burning alien ships, headlines screaming "Eden 9 avenged," and human fleet undefeated. But Mara wasn't smiling. She stared at the table, fingers tracing the insignia of her lost brother on her sleeve. Her captain sat across from her. "You should be proud, Lieutenant. You fought well." She looked up. "It doesn't feel like victory. We destroyed them, yes, but Eden 9 is still dead." The captain sighed. "That's war. You can't bring back the fallen, but you can make sure the enemy never forgets why they fell. Mara nodded slowly, but the doubt in her eyes didn't fade. Do you think we'll ever stop fighting? He looked out at the stars through the viewport. Not until they remember who we are. In the days that followed, the human armada moved with machine-like precision. Fleets spread through space, seizing abandoned Xylar outposts and freeing enslaved colonies. Every world that had once bowed to alien rule now saw the symbol of humanity rising, the twin suns and the burning torch. Reyes's strategy was relentless. Strike fast, strike hard, and never give the enemy time to breathe. The Xylar called it madness. Historians would later call it genius, but somewhere deep in the uncharted sectors, something else was watching. A massive ship, unlike any human or Xylar design, drifted silently among the black stars. Its surface shimmered like liquid glass, absorbing starlight. Inside, beings of light and thought, observers from a civilization far older than either species, watched humanity's rise with fascination. They have awakened, one said, voice like wind through metal. They burn too brightly, replied another. Such fire never lasts long, the first voice pulsed softly. Perhaps. But sometimes even a brief fire changes the course of eternity. And then, the watchers vanished into the void, leaving behind only whispers in the cosmic dark. Weeks later, humanity's war drums reached the Xylar's capital system. Outposts fell like dominoes. Alien commanders argued among themselves, their pride turning to fear. Refugee fleets fled in all directions. On the Sovereign, Reyes prepared for the next strike, an assault on the Dominion's heartworld. Xylar Prime. His officers stood ready. Admiral, Briggs said quietly, if we attack their capital, there's no going back. This becomes total war. Reyes's gaze hardened. It already is. They started it. We'll finish it. The Admiral stepped forward, addressing the entire fleet through the broadcast. Soldiers of Earth, his voice thundered. They thought humanity would die quietly. They thought our worlds would burn and our children would fade into the dark. But they were wrong. We are the children of the storm. We build in ashes, we rise in fire, and when the galaxy dares to test us, he raised his hand, eyes burning. We make the stars themselves tremble. The fleet erupted in a roar of approval. Engines ignited, blue trails burning brighter than suns. And as 500,000 ships turned toward the enemy's capital, the galaxy watched in awe and terror. For the first time in millennia, every species in the known universe realized a single truth. The age of humanity had begun. The void between stars boiled with motion. 500,000 human warships streaked through the blackness, their engines glowing like burning halos. In the center of the formation, the Sovereign cut through hyperspace like a blade through water, its armor gleaming with the reflection of distant suns. Inside, Admiral Reyes stood before the massive holomap, his eyes locked on one point. Xylar Prime, the Dominion's throne world. It was said to be the most fortified planet in the galaxy. 3 defense rings, millions of automated cannons, and an energy shield that could withstand a supernova blast. No one had ever breached it. Until now. Report, Reyes said, voice calm but filled with steel. Commander Briggs's hands moved over the console. All fleets are in formation. Vanguard squadrons ready for warp exit in 12 minutes. Our stealth drones are already in orbit, relaying data. Sir, the Dominion has deployed over 1 million ships in defense. The room went silent. The number was impossible. 1 million? Reyes repeated, his tone even as if testing the words. Yes, sir. They've pulled everything from their border sectors. This is their final stand. Reyes's gaze hardened. Then we'll make it their last. In the war room aboard the Dominion flagship Krathun, Supreme Warlord Zathreen stood before his generals. His eyes glowed crimson as he studied the tactical map. Humans are approaching our capital. They believe numbers make them gods, he bared his fangs. Let them come. We will show them what real extinction feels like. One general, smaller but wiser, hesitated. My lord, the humans have achieved something no race has ever done. They unified. They learned from every battle. Their strategy is silence. Zathreen's roar echoed across the chamber. They are insects who learn to use fire. Fire burns out. The Dominion endures. Outside, fleets of alien ships assembled. Massive cruisers with spiked armor, black destroyers lined in red energy. The orbital defense rings glowed alive, thousands of turrets locking into position. The planet below, Xylar Prime, shimmered with its colossal shield. Every living soul prepared for war, and then the humans arrived. The blackness of space split open with a thunderous ripple. Warp gates flared like dying stars as the human fleet emerged in full. One by one, ships exited the void, forming ranks so vast they eclipsed constellations. For a brief moment, silence hung across the void. Then, Reyes's voice came over the comm. Calm, focused, unforgiving. Human fleet, engage. And the stars erupted. Tens of thousands of missiles streaked across the darkness like silver comets. Plasma fire lanced through space, slicing enemy ships in half. The first Dominion defense ring opened fire, unleashing a storm of energy that could vaporize moons. But humanity didn't break. The Valkyrie squadron dove into the barrage, shields flaring, guns blazing. The space between fleets became a furnace. Metal burning, hulls cracking, explosions blooming like stars. On board the Sovereign, Reyes watched the tactical feed. Push the right flank. Deploy the Tempest carriers. Send the Dreadhawks to Sector 7. They'll try to flank from there. Yes, Admiral, Briggs replied. But our losses are rising. Reyes's gaze didn't waver. Then make them count. For every human ship that fell, 10 Dominion ships followed. The enemy's formations began to buckle. Human frigates weaved through the chaos, launching EMP waves that tore apart command signals. Cruisers fired kinetic cannons so powerful they cracked enemy shields like glass. The first defense ring exploded. On the Dominion homeworld, shockwaves lit the sky. Billions of citizens stared upward in disbelief as their impenetrable defense shattered. The war that was supposed to be quick was now turning into annihilation. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Mara Kellen piloted her fighter through the chaos, weaving between burning wrecks and exploding cruisers. Her ship rattled as a plasma beam grazed her wing. "Viper 3, you're too deep," her commander shouted. "Not leaving now," she yelled, locking onto a massive Dominion battleship. Her targeting screen blinked red to green, lock confirmed. She fired all torpedoes at once. The shockwave hit like a sunburst, vaporizing the alien dreadnought. Mara screamed triumphantly, but her smile faded when her sensors picked up 3 more enemy ships closing in. "Too many," she whispered. "I'm not getting out of this." And then, out of nowhere, a massive shadow blocked the incoming fire. It was the Vigilant, one of humanity's titanic war cruisers. The huge ship unleashed a volley of railgun rounds, tearing the attackers apart. A familiar voice came through her radio. Admiral Reyes himself. "You're not dying today, Lieutenant. Fall back to the carrier," Mara swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. Thank you." She didn't know if it was luck or destiny, but she knew one thing. Humanity was fighting as one. On the Dominion flagship, chaos reigned. "Shields are collapsing," shouted one officer. "The humans have breached the second defense ring." Zathreen slammed his fist onto the console. "Then we fight on the ground. Ready the planetary cannons. Target their command ship. Destroy the Sovereign." Gigantic cannons on Xylar Prime roared to life, sending beams of light through the sky and into orbit. One struck near the Sovereign, throwing it sideways. Consoles exploded, alarms wailed, crew members were thrown across the bridge. "Damage report," Reyes barked. "Shields down to 40%. Hull breach on deck 4. Stabilize. And prepare the Starbreaker." Briggs turned, shocked. "Sir, the Starbreaker's unstable." "If it detonates—" "I know," Reyes said quietly. "But if we don't use it, billions more will die." He looked out the window at the burning world below. His eyes were cold steel. "Target Xylar Prime's defense core. Fire on my mark." The command deck went silent. Then Reyes raised his hand. "Mark." The Sovereign's front hull opened, revealing a colossal cannon glowing with white light. The Starbreaker, humanity's deadliest weapon. A single beam fired, cutting through space like a blade of sunlight. It struck Xylar Prime's shield, ripping through it like paper. The energy cascaded downward, hitting the defense core deep beneath the planet's crust. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the world cracked. Mountains shattered, oceans boiled, and the planet's surface erupted in a blinding wave of fire. The Dominion's capital was gone, erased in minutes. The shockwave rippled through the stars, shaking fleets across sectors. Silence followed. When the light faded, Reyes stood motionless. The screen showed only debris. "It's over," Briggs whispered. Reyes shook his head. "No, it's only begun. The galaxy will never forget this day." He turned away from the viewport, his voice low but resolute. "We showed them what happens when humanity is pushed too far, but now, We must live with the cost. Outside, 500,000 ships hovered in silence, their engines dimmed. Sci Prime, once a symbol of alien power, now existed only as dust and memory. And across the galaxy, every species watched in awe and fear. Because for the first time, they understood one truth burned into the stars. Humanity was not just surviving anymore, and it was unstoppable. The fires of Xylar Prime burned for days. The once proud heart of the Dominion was now a scar of molten rock and drifting ruins. Every tower, every fortress, every symbol of alien power was reduced to dust. From orbit, it looked less like a world and more like a wound in the galaxy, glowing faintly red, surrounded by fragments of broken pride. The human fleet hung in silent orbit, engines dimmed, weapons cooling. Inside the Sovereign, no one cheered. There was no victory cry, no celebration. Only the hum of machines and the quiet heartbeat of a species that had finally shown its fury. Humanity had won, but the cost was beyond counting. Admiral Reyes stood alone in the command chamber, staring at the shattered world below. The glow from the dying planet reflected off his face, making him look older than ever. Commander Briggs approached slowly, his steps heavy, his voice low. "Sir, the Dominion fleet is gone. Their command network is silent. It's over." Reyes didn't turn. "Nothing is ever over, Commander. We've ended one war, but we've started a legend. And legends have long shadows." Briggs hesitated. "What do we tell the Council?" "The other races are panicking. Half of them fear us, the rest want an alliance." Reyes finally faced him. His eyes were hard but tired. "Tell them this, humanity doesn't seek conquest. But if anyone threatens our people again, they'll find no mercy. We've shown what we can do when cornered. Now we show who we are when free." In the days that followed, the fleet became a symbol of both awe and fear. Across thousands of worlds, broadcasts replayed the footage of Xylar Prime's destruction. The words "they thought humanity was weak" became a galactic proverb. Children in distant colonies whispered it like a prayer. Soldiers of other species spoke it with trembling respect. Even the pirate lords of the outer systems swore never to raid human ships again. Trade routes that once ignored Earth now reached out in peace. But beneath the surface of admiration, fear was growing. To some, humans were heroes. To others, monsters. On the Council of the 12 Worlds, ambassadors argued endlessly. "They've unleashed a power no civilization should wield," shouted one alien representative, slamming his claws on the table. "They destroyed an entire planet." Another, older delegate replied calmly, "They didn't start this war. The Dominion did. The humans only finished it." The chamber buzzed with whispers and unease. Finally, a transmission appeared on the central display. Admiral Reyes himself standing aboard the Sovereign. "Members of the Council," he began, his voice steady. "Humanity did not seek this war. We offered peace, we offered trade, we offered friendship, but your silence gave the Dominion their confidence. You watched as our people burned. Now you watch as they fall. I do not seek your approval, only your understanding. This is who we are. We fight for survival, we endure, and we do not forget." The broadcast ended. No one in the chamber spoke for a long time. Meanwhile, on the colony world of Eden 9, now reclaimed from the ashes, survivors walked through the ruins, rebuilding. Lieutenant Mara Kellen stood on the blackened soil, her flight helmet tucked under her arm. Around her, human engineers raised temporary shelters and banners bearing Earth's crest. The sky, once filled with smoke, now shimmered with light from the returning fleet. She knelt beside a memorial stone carved with the names of the fallen, her brothers among them. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "We did it. You didn't die for nothing." A child approached her, and one of the rescued colonists. He looked up, eyes wide. "Are the monsters gone now?" Mara smiled faintly, though sadness lingered behind it. "Yes," she said softly. "They're gone. But we'll always remember them so they never come back." The boy nodded, holding her hand. Together they looked up at the sky where distant lights still shimmered. Not stars, but ships guarding the peace they had bought with blood. In the hidden corners of the galaxy, whispers spread of humanity's rise. Some feared them, some admired them, and some, the remnants of the Dominion, plotted revenge. In a secret asteroid base, a group of Xylar survivors gathered around a dimly lit table. Their leader, scarred and broken, slammed a fist against the metal surface. "The humans think it's over," he growled. "They think they've won, but they've only shown us their greatest weapon, and now we'll build our own." Another alien hissed. We lost everything. Our fleets, our world. Then we rebuild, the leader interrupted. And when they least expect it, we will remind them. Fire spreads both ways. Outside, a handful of Xylar ships slipped quietly into the void. Months passed. The Sovereign returned to Earth orbit, greeted by a world forever changed. Cities erupted in light as the fleet descended through the atmosphere. Billions cheered, but even in victory the tone was solemn. The skies were filled with fireworks, yet beneath the celebration, there was grief for Eden 9, for the countless lives lost, for the innocence that would never return. Reyes stood before the United Human Council, his uniform crisp but his expression distant. We've proven humanity can survive anything, he said. But now we must prove we can lead without destruction. We cannot let fear become our strength. We must be better. The chamber applauded, but Reyes only bowed his head. He knew history would remember him not as a hero, but as the man who unleashed 500,000 warships upon the stars. And maybe that was enough. Years later, across the galaxy, human ships patrolled peacefully among new allies. Trade routes flourished, colonies expanded, and the name of Earth carried weight in every corner of space. The once fragile species had become a guardian, not a conqueror. On a quiet night, Admiral Reyes sat in his cabin aboard the Sovereign. Through the viewport, the stars stretched endlessly, distant, silent witnesses to everything that had happened. He poured himself a glass of water, staring at the reflection. Commander Briggs entered quietly. Sir, we've received a message. From the New Xylar Republic. They're asking for peace talks. Reyes didn't look up. Peace? Yes, sir. They want to end the cycle. Reyes leaned back, eyes on the stars. After a long pause, he said, Then maybe we've finally learned. He stood, straightened his uniform, and walked toward the bridge. The ship's lights dimmed as it turned slowly toward the horizon. Outside, the stars shone brighter than ever. The scars of war were fading, replaced by the quiet hum of hope. And somewhere in that endless sky, a single human voice whispered into the void. We were never weak. We were waiting. The galaxy had seen humanity's wrath. Now it would learn its mercy.